Okay, for kids watching, this is probably not for you. 3, 2, that's out of the way. Felony murder. Felony murder, are you shitting me? Are you shitting me? We have a show tonight. We have Jocko Willing coming on. We'll talk about all this, and we have clips. I'm sorry, I just couldn't wait. I don't know about you. I had a pit in my stomach last night. I was physically sick to my stomach, and I woke up physically sick to my stomach this morning. And by the way, it doesn't mean that we weren't sick to our stomach when we saw the George Floyd video, because we all did. But felony murder for Officer, I think it's Garrett Rolfe. Garrett Rolfe, who shot Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta. You have a DA who charged him with felony murder. Do you know what felony murder is, folks? You know what felony murder is? Felony murder is when murder is tacked on to a crime already occurring in process. A felony is already taking place. It's already in process. Like armed robbery goes wrong, right? You're just planning on robbing a bank. You're not planning on shooting anybody, but and then you end up shooting some. That's felony murder. Please do tell me what fucking felony that officer was committing before he fired his gun on somebody who had stolen his taser, beaten the crap out of him, and then tried to shoot him with it. Oh, that's right. I guess the felony would be trying to cuff the man who's a serial felon who abused his own children, Rayshard Brooks, a serial felon, child abuser, and false imprisonment, likely kidnapper. I don't know the exact charges, but you can look at his rap sheet, and was going to go back to jail for a long time. Remember I made that bet with Stacey Abrams on Twitter? How much do you want to bet that this has nothing to do with a DUI, has to do with a rap sheet that would make a DUI more severe, which, by the way, are the most dangerous pullovers that often happen with cops. Someone doesn't want to go back to the clink. They have nothing to lose. So I guess the officer's felony was arresting a man who was putting everyone else in danger. Is that it? I guess the officer's felony was conducting a field sobriety test on someone who, by the way, didn't pull over into a Wendy's parking space like, oh, man, I have had too much to drink and I'm going to do response. No, he fell asleep in the drive-through line. To the point it took 2 officers to wake him up. Is that the felony? Felony murder? And by the way, here's something else. What do you think happens if you watch that video and there's only one officer, which is the case most of the time? One of them got spiked on his head, punched in the face, a taser stolen, used against him, and they didn't just shoot him. Sorry, my arm's getting tired. I apologize for this, but not really. I don't know if I can hold it. Can I hold it this way? Can you see me? Okay. I look like crap. I get it. It's the morning. I apologize, but not really. We can do the show tonight when I brush my hair. Spiked an officer on his head, beat the shit out of them, stole a taser, and they didn't shoot him while he was running away. They only shot him once he turned to aim a taser. Oh, I guess the felony, according to the DA, was using a taser. Sorry. No, there is no felony. Because the DA said that the officer could not be in fear of serious bodily injury at that point. When 2 weeks earlier, the DA said that a taser is a deadly weapon. Here's the thing. This is a line in the sand, and I feel, and I will tell you, and I would love, tell me what you think we should do. I would love to start maybe a GoFundMe, but we would need many, many tens of millions of dollars, so every cop who wants to walk off the force at this point can do so, and we can take care of them, and I'm sure my lawyer's not going to be happy that I even suggested that. Don't worry, I haven't started the GoFundMe. I do the show, we reach millions of people every single show, and I feel like it's not enough, because we are at a point in our country right now, you can only line up 3 ways, okay? You either believe that the officer who shot the man who beat the shit out of him and stole his taser and aimed it at him, serial felon, guy who abused children. You believe that the officer should be put to death because that's the penalty, okay, potentially for felony murder in Georgia. So you either A, believe that Officer Rolfe should be put to death, should be executed, B, believe that this is completely impermissible, or C, you're a coward. And you're just as bad as B. And you know what? This is something people want to come after me and sue me. Okay, I let everyone on my team know here at Louder with Crowder. I said, if you don't pick B, if you don't say that this is impermissible, cowardice is not tolerated on this team. I will provide you with generous severance. There's the door. We are not at a point in this country where remaining neutral is a possibility. And you know what bothers me more than the leftists out there who've been very smart strategically is, first off, Donald Trump, when are you going to do something? When are you going to stop the bootlicking? President, come on, something here. There are blocks of cities being taken over against people's will. What have Republicans done? Unless there were riots before Donald Trump, and that's a big reason Donald Trump was elected. And now Republicans aren't doing shit. And if you don't start picking it up, you do not deserve our vote. Sorry, MAGA crowd. Sorry, OK crowd. He's not my king, okay? I think the guy's done a lot of good work, but I am so disappointed in this administration, and I'm so disappointed in Republicans, I don't even know that my vote makes that much of a difference at this point. And unless you are going out there and championing the cause of people who have the right to defend themselves, because right now, you can't have a neighborhood watch. We know that. That's not allowed. You can't call the cops because they can't do anything. Cops can't have guns. We don't want that. Cops can't use chokeholds, even though if a cop could use a chokehold and applied it properly, everyone in the Rayshard-Brooks conflict would still be alive. And now a taser is a deadly weapon if an officer has it, but if it's used against an officer, it's not, and he'll be put on death fucking row. Republicans, in this state, you need to make it clear that Americans have the right to defend their homes and property and their loved ones, or you don't deserve our vote. Felony murder. Imagine that's your dad. Or mom, if they lowered the PT requirements. Imagine. What really bothers me is Republicans and all of these Christians who don't get mad. Like there was never a time that Jesus threw over some tables at the temple. I think it's table tossing time. What time is it? It's table tossing time because they're selling lattes in the place of worship. For crying out loud, you see these Christians, oh, it's just love. And you know what? Actually, this is true. I was planning on starting a day of prayer in D.C. where we kneel in prayer and stand to pledge, because no man should kneel to another man. As Christians, we don't believe in kneeling. That's deeply rooted in our history, both as Christians and Americans. But the prayer has changed. The prayer is no longer for unity. The prayer is for safety and swift resolution. Sorry, oh, YouTube will take that wrong. Swift resolution right now. Anyone think it's table flipping time at this point? Felony murder. And is this conspiratorial? I look at it and go, God, there's no possible way this may... Unless they're trying to overcharge so that when these officers get off, which they inevitably do, hopefully someone intervenes here, because I don't think any person who's a human being with two brain cells to rub together wants this officer to be put to death. Then there'll be more riots. Then it'll get more violent. No justice, no peace. Yep, you're right. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. You don't get to put a cop on death row for firing a firearm at a drunken, serial, violent felon child abuser who beat their asses, stole their weapon, and used it against him. That's right. This is the great... And am I saying this is a worse travesty injustice than George Floyd? Oh, no. Oh, no. Yep. Yeah. You know why? Because everyone agreed that the cop needed to be punished for George Floyd. Manslaughter? Great. Then they overcharged. Moved up the murder charges. Don't know if that can stick. Don't know if you can prove intent. Wonder why they did that. There was a moment that was taken where we were all in agreement that could have unified the country. And it's been crapped on. And this is where we are. And I see the news telling, well, you know what? We do need to understand the civil unrest because black men are being hunted down in the streets. And no. And I know everyone hears the stat, everyone hears the statistic because I've talked about it ad nauseum. We have some more Change My Minds coming next week. That, 9 unarmed black guys were shot by officers last year. How many white guys? 19. People are, oh yeah, but they make up only about 10 to 15% of the population. But, oh, that's true. Well, they commit 60% of the homicides, black Americans. Young black males are 37 times more likely. This might be banned because it's FBI crime statistics, but let me be really clear here. Not making it a racial thing, not making it a racial supremacy thing, making it an accurate statistics thing because you said Black Lives Matter. People look around and go, oh my God, violent rioting, look at 400 officers, 25 people killed in these violent riots and looted over $25 million in property damage in Minneapolis. What's happening? And they go, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. We go, hold on a second, we need to find some peace here. We need to find some justice and some unity. What do we do? Why is there all this violence? Why are these people acting like criminals? And then you go, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. You know what's going to happen? People will say, oh, all this shit is because of Black Lives Matter. And congratulations, YouTube and big tech, in censoring the message. You've now created more racists. You're so busy trying to censor, what is it, Zero Hedge and the Federalist comment section, and featuring Tekashi69, who uses the N-word repeatedly, despite not being black, and a talentless piece of shit who sexually abused a minor, physically abused his girlfriend for years, and, racketeering, choked a guy. Anyway, the point is, that's featured on the YouTube trending list, right? YouTube's really clear about their priorities. Congratulations, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. You've created the extremists at this point. Because people like me for a long time say, no, it's not a black-white thing. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Well, hold on a second. Let's talk about all of that's racist. That's racist. Hold on a second. This officer, felony murder. Felony murder. Put him on death row because officers are hunting down black men and killing them in the streets, despite the fact that there's a higher percentage of police officers who are black than the general percentage of the population of America. And it's really hard to find statistics based on race, some crime statistics, because they only do it in the media publicly when they can use it for black victimhood status. And I mean that when they say officers are hunting down black people in the streets and killing them. And you can hear that exact phrase from the Young Turks. You can hear that exact phrase from Don Lemon, okay? Now, if people believe that, every single American should be outraged. If people believe that officers are hunting down people solely because they're black in the streets and killing them. But that is not happening. So, in trying to combine all these statistics regarding homicide, the rates at homicides which occur between races, how many officers die per year, how many officers die at the hands of black men, do you know how much more likely an officer is to be killed by a black criminal than to shoot or kill an unarmed black man? 18.5 times. A police officer in the United States is 18.5 times more likely to be shot by a black man, a criminal, during apprehension, than he is to kill an unarmed black man. And you know what? I've always tried to be this voice, but here's the truth, guys. And I'll be talking about YouTube a whole lot more because there's been a lot of conversations behind the scenes. Isn't that right, YouTube? Where they've made it very clear that my views on immigration, that it's about ideas and values. And the naturalization oath, regardless. I've said, right, that I would much rather have, for example, a Honduran or a Cuban-American patriot who comes here and loves the United States and what it's about than a Swedish immigrant or German immigrant who wants to come here and vote in socialism. Well, that's an unacceptable viewpoint at YouTube. That's borderline content. Where do you think people go? When this video is seen as borderline content, YouTube, where do you think people go? It's not Ben Shapiro or myself sending people down an alt-right rabbit hole. It's you saying that these views, which are entirely statistically substantiated, are extremist views. And I've always tried to be, the reason I say that is, sorry, it's a little bit free flow right now. We do have the show tonight with Jocko Willink where we'll be talking about chokeholds. Spoiler alert, big fan. Especially now, more chokeholds. Chokeholds for everyone. You get a chokehold, and you get a chokehold, and you get a chokehold. Everybody gets a chokehold because we can't use tasers. So, I've always tried to be the voice of reason. And when people used to say when Barack Obama was president, oh, there goes our country. And I would say, you know what, listen, no. You get some bad guys, you get some good guys. The good thing is we have checks and balances in this country and we can fix it. When people talked about there's going to be an armed revolution, I would say, no. But you know what? And let me be really clear, YouTube. I'm not telling people to go out there and shoot people in the streets. But for the first time in my life, I think a civil war is very possible. And let me explain to you why. Because it is not an irrational... Okay, let me frame this in exactly. Let's talk about Chaz, Razzmatazz, Chaz, peaceful Chaz, right? With that Raz warlord, and they're handing out AR-15s to 15-year-olds. If you haven't seen this clip, where's the felony charge there? Just a Raz show loophole. You have 3 square blocks of the United States that have been taken over by violent extremists. By the way, leaders with no elections, enforcement police with no accountability, no freedom of the press, no free speech allowed in Chaz. That's the liberal utopia. Chaz, where's Bernie? Speaking on it, I thought democratic socialism. Where's the democratic socialism there? Where's the democratic socialism when people are getting shaken down? No Democrats speaking. It's a summer of love. Tell it to the business owners there. So let's look at that. Chaz, let me ask you this. I've never thought that we were at a point in our country that we could have a civil war. Or that it would, of course, that it would be appropriate. And I'm not even saying that a civil war would be appropriate now, but I will say this. Felony murder. And when you have a place like Chaz, sorry, Chop now, because they're pussies, and they understood that calling it Chaz, an autonomous zone, actually makes it illegal. And I'm like, no, we're just actually protests. By the way, could you send some canned goods and some phone chargers? No! So in Chaz, you have a place, a communist, anti-American insurrection that was not elected, that is basically now taking over a portion of what is supposed to be free America against residents' will, who are silenced and intimidated into not speaking out, and they are protecting this zone with guns. They have taken over an area of a city, and they are protecting it with guns. Would it be an irrational response for American citizens to take back that portion of their city with guns when the police won't do anything? Not saying they should. I'm not advocating it. But once upon a time, I would have looked at that and said, well, come on, guys. Let's have some kind of an equitable arrangement. There should be a response that's tantamount to... Well, what is equal to that? What is equal force? When a city is taken over by people and protected with guns, it has to be take it or take it back with guns. Let me ask you this. What if it's your neighborhood? Let's say right now. I know a lot of you are smart enough to not live in big cities anymore, despite the fact that the left wants to herd us into big cities and put us in public transit. I wrote about that at Fox News 9 years ago and said it was crazy. Let's say it's your neighborhood and you're going home tonight. I have a wife who's sick. Some people know that if you follow me on Instagram or social media. She had GBS and she's going to walk fine eventually. But it raises my antenna. So let's say it's your neighborhood and you're trying to get home today to your house that you've paid for, and you can't. There's a barricade with some pussy in a mask and some buddies with AR-15s who tell you that you need to present identification. And maybe in that neighborhood is your business, and you've got to pay a fee, your little poll tax for antifa-dimitude. Let's say it's your neighborhood. Your entire neighborhood, put a perimeter on it and barricade. And now it's been taken over by the extremists like Chaz. You've seen the results of Chaz? Go watch some videos. It looks like East Berlin. Not only businesses, but residences have been ransacked. What would you do? What would you do? Comment. Does that make you an extremist? Does that make you an extremist? If it is your neighborhood that has been taken over without a vote against your will, and the government, your mayor and your governor have made it clear that there is no cavalry coming over that hill. And for you to enter your own house, you have to go past a guy with an AR-15 who is demanding complete defunding of police. What would you do? I'm telling you. Just like I said, please stop the riots. Please stop. This is not going to be good. When you want, every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. And I used to say, I really don't think there's any risk of a civil war because, listen, Obamacare, terrible. awful come from Canadian healthcare. You can watch my video. You can watch the history that I've had with healthcare, and I've fought against it. But an equal and opposite reaction wouldn't be to take over cities with guns. That's what I have referred to as militia extremists, and I still stand by that. But I don't think you're a militia extremist when people have taken over your city with guns if you respond with an equal and opposite reaction in your community, with your own property. Especially when now we've made it clear that the people who we pay, who our tax dollars pay to protect us, can't even try and do their job in the face of a serial violent felon who's violently assaulted two of them, stolen a deadly weapon, and used it against them without fear of being put on death row. You either believe that this officer deserves death. Well, no, I think he should be punished, but that's not the charge. That's not the charge. Death penalty? This is impermissible. This is a line in the sand, or you're a coward. And any Christian out there who wants to do the agape bullshit, don't put on my team jersey. Because you know what? If you do that and you don't speak, a good man, maybe he's a jackass, we don't know. But there's no way, I would bet that he was a really bad cop. There's bad history. And now they're trying to say, oh, he kicked a man when he was dead and while he was down. But how much do you, here, I'll place another bet. How much do you want to bet that's not true? How much do you want to bet? Just like I said, when they pulled over, well, they didn't pull him over. He went like Homer Simpson, and they found him in a Wendy's drive-through line. Wasn't pulled over. They had to jostle him up. More crack? I don't even remember what I was going to say. I'm getting so angry about this. A good man, potentially. Oh yeah, I was saying that how much you want to bet. Just like I said, there was more to the story than just some guy pulled into a Wendy's parking lot peacefully and he was shot by cops? No. And then I saw the arrest. I was like, oh, how much do you want to bet there's more to this than a DUI? He was probably going back to the clink for a long time. Turns out he was a child abuser and I think might have only been out on coronavirus. Just like Tekashi 6ix9ine, right? Yeah. Like Piggy from Lord of the Flies. All of a sudden you're in prison, you're hard, and then it's, oh, I can get out from coronavirus? My asthma! You hear it, right? My asthma! I would like to be free to go to beat my kids more. Just like I said, there was more to that story. No one agreed to that bet, and I did. I bet with Stacey Abrams my entire social media platform, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, mailing list, all of it. I said, I will bet that against your candidacy, that he had priors. Who wants to take the bet? Any elected official, Democrat, any elected DA, Abrams, bet here. The story that you're pushing is not accurate, that he kicked a man while he was down and just said, ha ha ha, I got me one, and refused to provide medical care. How much you want to bet that? Otherwise, just release that tape. You have tape of everything else. Why don't you release it? Back to my point. I do have to wrap this up. We have a show. Gosh, it's 23 minutes. I'm sorry. Sorry. Listen, maybe this means something. Maybe it doesn't. I had to get this off my chest. I don't know if anyone else. This is a very different feeling. This is different from any other instance in the history of this country for me. When they're about to put, of course the charges probably won't stick, but if they had their way, would put an officer, a man, who by all information we have now, that could change, a good man on death row to appease a mob of bad men. Republicans, you've let us down. Christians, the church, where's the church? You guys, while there are riots in the streets, $25 million in property damage in Minneapolis alone, at least hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in damages and repairs across this country from riots. And pastors in many states won't even hold services in their own congregations? Pussies. And this doesn't come from a place of hate. It comes from a place of righteous anger. It is time to start flipping some tables. People need to start earning our support. And to the agape Christians right now who think that it's the righteous thing to do to stand by and go, oh, I'm going to go in my prayer closet and just pray for healing for this country right now, when you could speak out, when a man could be put to death to appease a mob of violent people. You are not righteous. You are not doing the right thing. You are a coward. And if the Chaz situation happens across the country, maybe in your cities of Los Angeles, maybe pick any big city. Guess what? I will love you. I will pray for you, but you will knock on that door that has been made of brick, and I will not protect you. And neither should any other American. The left has tried to say silence is murder. Silence is murder. Well, hold on, I'm just not being silent because you're like, an officer is 18 times more likely to be killed by a black man than to shoot a black. Like, I just don't think that I think the problem is we need police reform. I just don't think that black people are being hunted. Like, I don't think Rayshard Brooks was being hunted. Silence is murder. But I will tell you this right now. When a man is sentenced to death for doing his job, even if imperfectly, and when you have cities in the United States of America that have been overtaken and are being guarded by communists with guns, silence is cowardice. Silence is consent. That includes senators, congressmen, media members, presidents, and people watching this video, Mug Club subscribers. If you choose to be silent, I love you, I pray for you, but I don't want you here. And if the shit goes down, none of the people who were vocal, who did the right thing, owe you any protection. All right, I'll see you tonight, Jocko Willink.